Now, in situations like these, you cannot be two things at the same time. You can't be a country that's focused on humanitarianism while also being a serious country. Something's going to have to take the back seat. Do we want to know as being a serious country that you should not mess with? Or do we want to be known as humanitarians that give everything to the world until we have nothing left? I will take door number one. We have to be a serious country. And what happened to these men is more or less a real life version of the TV show Scared Straight. Illegals or anyone in any country that's thinking of crossing any country's borders illegally should see this video. It is more of a it's more of an incentive to get them to avoid even making an attempt or trying crime because they know there are serious consequences. And I don't think it gets much worse than this. So let's go ahead and take a look.
The report found some Venezuelan citizens deported by the Trump administration to El Salvador faced horrifying abuse during their time in a notorious prison. The abuse allegedly includes systematic torture, sexual violence, and forced disappearances.
Okay. Last time I checked, punishment was punishment. As a criminal, you don't get to decide what your punishment will be. Only a non-serious country would do that. If whatever kind of abuses you're going through, you're not an American citizen. It is inconsequential for Americans to even be worried or concerned about what happens to foreign criminals that are caught in our country, that are arrested, that have criminal records, that are deported. Complaining to us after the fact to pull on American heartstrings, it's more or less a waste of your time. You can do it, but what do you expect us to do about it? You're not an American citizen. Our Constitution and our rights do not apply to you. You were a guest here and you took our kindness for weakness. You were a criminal. You broke in here. You broke our laws because you have zero respect for our laws, because you have zero respect for our country. Now that we've decided to become serious and to not allow ourselves to be ran over by illegal criminals, well, now everybody wants to cry. Frankly, we don't give a damn. But we're going to go ahead and let these bleeding heart liberals plead their case. But let this be seen by every illegal across the world who is considering breaking into our country to steal our resources and exploit our system.
CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camila Montoya Galvez broke down the details earlier today with our Vlad Dutier.
The investigation found the detainees were victims of what they called constant beatings by officials at the notorious maximum security prison known as CECOT in El Salvador, as well as other forms of mistreatment, including, in some cases, sexual abuse, Vlad.
I don't see how that's any different than an American prison. Prisoners die in the United States every day. They are sexually assaulted every day. I'll be honest. Judges, police, everyone knows that sexual assault is the number one penalty of going to prison. No one's in any disillusion about that. I'll be honest. I think that they literally count on that to be a deterrent for criminals. When you're trying to tell kids, hey, don't grow up and, start a life of crime because you're going to go to jail, they might as well just tell these kids, don't start a life of crime unless you want to be gay. Because once you get to jail, there's a lot of gay sex happening. I'm talking tons. I'm talking, everyone talks about it. I've never been to prison, but for what I'm hearing, it's a big old orgy. And you got to think about it. When these kids are hearing, they need to hear the real story of the real punishment. The punishment is not just being bored sitting in a cell all day. The punishment is when several men hold you down and rip your butthole up. So that is something that you should talk to kids about or people in advance, because they don't understand what prison is until they get there, and then they don't make it out. There's a lot of kids running around with guns and committing crimes because they don't understand the amount of rough sex that awaits them behind bars. And I think that should be clear, and now these prisoners are finding out too. This is, again, a scared straight for adult illegals who are considering committing crimes against the republic known as the United States of America.
Investigators argue that some of these cases constitute torture under international law, and citing interviews with more than 40 of the Venezuelan men held at this mega prison in that Central American country. The report also said the detainees face inhumane conditions, that they were held incommunicado without sufficient access to food, medical care, and basic hygiene in some cases. Importantly, Vlad, the investigation also raises questions about what the Trump administration has said about these men. The administration, as you might remember, accused all of these migrants of being dangerous criminals, terrorists, and members of the Venezuelan gang known as Tren de Aragua. But
okay, so they are urban terrorists, they are domestic terrorists, and they were within our borders. I don't give two shits about what happens to them. This is a them problem. We're all adults, right? Are they worried about my bills? Are they worried about my taxes? Are they worried about my bottom line when they're here stealing resources, breaking into our country, and not just being here illegally, but also starting a life of crime? No, they're not. You know, the good thing is the Trump administration is signing treaties with countries like South Sudan. And if we can get rid of birthright citizenship, well, guess who can also be returned to sender past a certain amount of violent crime convictions? I say 2. After your second violent crime conviction, you should go before a board where you could be repatriated, meaning you can lose your American citizenship, be banned from the country, and you can be sent to Africa. They'll build stations in the Sudan, and you would have to begin your life over there. Kind of like how we used to have penal colonies like Australia, but we can send people to, you can go to CECOT in El Salvador, you can go to South Sudan, you can go to one of these other countries. But being a violent criminal, regardless of your race, black, white, not just these illegals, you can lose your citizenship. Do you know how much the behavior of people will change if they knew they could literally be deported as a citizen because they somehow, by a string of poor decisions, forfeited their citizenship? Oh my God. You talk about crime on the decrease. You know, you gotta think about it. People don't mind doing home invasion robberies and killing people because, I mean, prisons, like American prisons, a vacation, right? Because a lot of people are, you know, some guys like the whole butthole stuff. They're like, shit, you know, hold me down, daddy. They don't care about that. It's not really a punishment. They play video games, they play cards, you play chess, you get food, you get to work in the kitchen. Some people get TVs. It's not really a punishment. So if you tell someone that, yeah, you think you can get sent to a nice, cushy American prison, or you're going to probably lose your citizenship and be repatriated to Africa, where you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do with yourself going forward. And the Africans, from what I'm hearing, are not as nice as they are to their prisoners. And neither are the El Salvadorians. You know what I heard? El Salvador is now all of a sudden the safest country in Central America. Actually, El Salvador is the safest country in all the Americas, Central, North, and South, because they've literally been tough on crime. They build these prisons, and the word is getting around. Don't mess with Bukele's El Salvador. And now with Trump sending people to this prison into the South Sudan, the border is secure because people know what waits for them.
Back in March, CBS News was first to obtain and publish the list of the men who were sent to El Salvador. And using that list, Vlad, we found that many of the deportees did not have any apparent criminal record in the U.S. or abroad.
Blah, blah, blah. You know, this guy seems like he wants to go to one of these prisons. I bet he likes all the showers and stuff with all these other guys, but whatever. But they say that about everybody. Everybody who's illegal, who's a criminal, who's deported, they say, we couldn't find any criminal record. You know why you can't find the criminal record of an illegal? Because you don't know their real name. They can change any name. There's no birth certificate. There's no social security card. They came up with a new identity when they came here, and they can change it every year or two or whenever they want to. So it's hard to find the criminal records of somebody who can become anybody they want to, like that. They can go down to Alvarado Street in LA and get a fake social, fake ID, and start a whole new life. And then when they're arrested, you know what they're going to say? We couldn't find any criminal record. The feds can, but the news cannot. It's just like how now every woman that's arrested for shoplifting is magically pregnant. Any woman now in America that's arrested, they all scream, "I'm pregnant." So it's the same thing. It's a way to try to obfuscate being arrested or skirt your way out of getting in trouble. It's not going to work. You guys can cry all you want. What they don't understand is that you're really just helping ICE and Trump because you're spreading propaganda that's going to let people know there are actually real consequences for fucking with us.
Administration said, and investigators today also found that the detainees, many of them had not been convicted of any crimes by federal or state authorities in the U.S. or in Venezuela. So again, we should...
Coming to the United States illegally is a crime. You don't need to be convicted. You're already here as a criminal. Illegal entry is a crime. I cannot illegally enter any other country. I have to get permission. If I break the law, if I sneak into Canada, I'm breaking the law. That's a crime. Stop saying that. Being here illegally is a crime. If I overstay my, if I'm supposed to be in the country for 90 days, on day 91, I am a criminal. That is a crime. Please stop sharing that BS. We don't want to hear it. That's not going to work either. Being here illegally is a crime. That makes you a criminal, period.
Note that many of these men, all of them now, are back in Venezuela after a prisoner swapped, Vlad, was brokered by the U.S. back in July.
Well, guess who will not be sneaking back into the country anytime soon? They're back home. Good for them. But guess who's not going to be sneaking?
Well, two human rights groups released a report today alleging that roughly 250 Venezuelan men sent by the Trump administration to an infamous prison in El Salvador earlier this year faced mistreatment and abuse. CBS News immigration and politics reporter.
How are you supposed to treat criminals? You supposed to rub their backs? You want to read them a bedtime story? Or do you apply belt to ass? The hell, when did everybody become so... I'll be honest, I don't even think they love criminals. I think they just hate Trump. So no matter what Trump does, they hate it. But that's too damn bad. He's our president. And the good thing is, if there is an incoming war, a civil conflict in this country, well, you guys know what side I'm on.
Camila Montoyo Galvez has the details.
Torture, arbitrary detention, and enforced disappearance. That is how human rights investigators are describing the treatment of more than 200 Venezuelan migrants deported by the U.S. to El Salvador back in March. The deportees were held at a notorious mega prison known as CECOT for months before being returned to Venezuela in July as part of a prisoner swap brokered by the U.S.
Actually, there's a video that I wanted to play, and it shows... Where is it at? Oh, it was on the 60 Minutes page. Let me see here. 60 Minutes. El Salvador. Let's see here. This one was showing some of these guys actually talking. And I wanted you guys to hear a group of it right here.
It began as soon as the planes landed. The deportees thought they were headed from the U.S. back to Venezuela, but instead...
Yeah, you don't get your way. You don't get to decide your punishment. You don't get to say, okay, give me a free trip home. You know how much tickets cost to go to Venezuela, and you want me to pay for that too? So I pay for your housing in jail and outside of jail. I pay for your food. I pay for you to have the luxury to go commit crimes. And now you want me to give you a free ticket directly home? No, sir. We got a pit stop to make. Pick you up some donuts in this little restaurant called CECOT.
They were shackled, paraded in front of cameras, and delivered to CECOT, the notorious maximum security prison in El Salvador.
I mean, I'm talking about this delivery is better than Amazon. This is like using those drones. This is a special delivery. And these are the kind of deliveries they need to be playing on bus stations and train stations to let people know what time it is. The days of just running over the United States are over. Se acabó. Se acabó.
Where they told 60 Minutes they endured 4 months of hell.
Did you think you were going to die there?
4 months is about right. You're illegally in the United States. You got to have, there are penalties. There are penalties. Why does everybody think that you can just get away with anything, including murder, and not be punished? Like, these people are insane.
We thought we were already the living dead, honestly.
It began as soon as the planes landed.
Yeah, they thought they were the living dead. They thought they were sent to hell. And technically they were. Many people have called CECOT hell. And you know what that does? That's a place you don't want to go. So what do? Don't do things that will get you put in prison or sent to hell. Don't do it. You have a choice. Life's about decisions. Do you want to live here? Or do you want to live in a free world?
What we're about to walk into. Suddenly, you're hit with the intense gaze of dozens locking onto you. These men described as the worst of the worst, tattooed with reminders of El Salvador's dark past.
And it's crazy. Many of them were let out of prison and sent directly to the United States. And their country told them, do not come back. But they let them out of jail because, it costs money to keep people incarcerated. I mean, when we spend thousands a day per person to keep you fed, keep you alive, you're given free medical, but you're a prisoner. You're a slave. And in these other countries, that's a big portion of their budget. They can't just print money like the United States. So to get rid of your prisoner population, why not send them to a country that opened its borders and was asking for them? So now a lot of these people are here, and what we're doing is just the right thing, return to sender. You ever had like your post office, they drop mail off at your house, but it belongs to your neighbor? And you're a very Ned Flanders neighborly type of person. And so are we here in the United States. We're going to take your mail, which is in the form of criminals and prisoners, and we're going to drop them off to you. Or we'll drop your mail off at a location like CECOT where it can marinate. Then we'll send it all the way to you. You can say thank me later.
It's tense and uncomfortable. But here, officials say comfort isn't meant to exist.
There's no mattresses, there's no sheets. You've got a toilet over here for them to go to the bathroom. You've got this basin here that they use to bathe them.
Yes, they absolutely get free medical. And you spelled right wrong. But yes, they get free medical because in the United States, if someone's sick or injured, you cannot turn them away because of a lack of insurance. That's illegal. So all their medical is free. Dental work, everything. On the house.
And then you can see there's a barrel of water that they can drink from.
This is a rare look inside El Salvador's terrorism confinement center, known as CECOT.
He says there's always somebody standing here in front of the cells. And then if you look up, there's another corridor with more security personnel. Luz 24 horas. 24/7 light.
The prison sits like
it never gets dark in there. So, I mean, what is the alternative? To just live in a crime-ridden place where no one's safe, children aren't safe? Basically the city of Memphis until Trump brought in the National Guard? Or we create facilities like this? The problem is with these jails is that, the prisoners and the guards are all in prison 24/7. Yeah, you get to get off and go home, but you're still in a prison. But it's a job. If this is what it requires to have public safety, then so be it. You can't sacrifice your security for safety because you'll end up with neither. We can't have certain people wandering the streets looking for victims. We have a huge problem with that here in the United States. And I fear that we are eventually going to just go so heavy-handed on crime that prisons like this are just inevitable. But if we can't do it here, then we can outsource our worst criminals to prisons like this or to other countries. But it's just not safe for them to live here in the United States. They don't want to be Americans, or they would work and they would try to be productive members of society. If they don't want to do that, then they either have to be deported or sent to prison forever. I think deportation just makes the most sense.
An isolated fortress nestled in mountainous terrain, about an hour-and-a-half drive from the capital. Even with government officials on board with us, we're stopped a mile out.
Oh, okay. He's gonna inspect bags now too. Okay, we're clear to get back in.
See, people might see this and think this is a dictatorship, but no, this is what a serious country looks like. It takes public safety and security seriously. In the United States, we are way too lax. And that's why we're always victims of something. Right now, we got the power out in San Francisco. Seems deliberate because the power was out even before the substation caught on fire. So what are the odds the power goes out and somebody sets a substation on fire? What is that? What are the odds of that? All at the same time, the same day, right before the holiday. So this is what it looks like when you're a serious country. And people have to respect that. If they don't, then don't live here. But El Salvador is not playing, and now they have one of the safest cities. Business and tourism have increased. More foreigners are going to visit. I want to go visit soon, actually. So, I mean, they're doing the right thing. So President Bukele is serious. He's doing the right thing, and I'm glad he's a friend of our president, Donald Trump. Do me a favor, like and subscribe, share the video. I just wanted to do a short video about what these criminals are complaining about. Criminals complaining is crazy to me, but that's what it is. So share the video, hit the like button. If you can, come follow me on YouTube, The Single Boyfriend, or Right Wing Rico, either one of those channels. I'll be back on live in about 20 minutes with another topic. Remember, America first, America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.